guys and dolls, and welcome back. It's me, Cora. I'm really excited about today's video because we're doing a 90s inspired look that's very authentic to my experience in the 90s versus like the 90s makeup trend, which is kind of like a mishmash of, and this kind of always happens every time a trend comes back, is that it's mixed with whatever's the modern version. But that like Kylie Jenner version of the 90s, in my opinion, while beautiful and amazing, and I love that look, is not authentically 90s in my opinion. I was about 14 or 15 when the 90s ended, so while I wasn't like a super hardcore like makeup fanatic, I definitely had a passion for it, and my mom sold Avon, so it was in my life and I had access to a lot of different makeup products, so I was definitely experimental with it. But my sort of everyday go-to look was something like this. Green eyeliner, very minimalistic eyeshadow, a little bit of mascara, but nothing like, no false lashes or anything like that. There was no contour, there was no highlighting, a little bit of powder, a little bit of concealer, just kind of a little bit of everything. That's what I'm going to share with you guys today is a recreation of my 90s look. Maybe I'll try to find a photo, and maybe we'll do like a Throwback Thursday recreation of this to show you guys kind of how I did my makeup back then. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my inspiration beyond just that, like why do a 90s look now versus doing it, you know, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or whatever. And really it was a nostalgic moment that I had when I got my new Scentbird scent this month. You guys know I love Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue, and I wanted to try this new one. It was like a, you know, fragrance in that line called Light Blue Sunset and Salina. It sounded like the fragrance notes sounded like they'd appeal to me, so I got it, and my first sniff I was like, whoa, this smells like the 90s, homie. Like, what the heck is going on? And it was weird because I can't pinpoint like any one particular fragrance it smells like. Almost just like a blend of all the super popular fragrances in the 90s. Realistically, what this smells like to me is like that cloud of perfume in a mall in the 90s. That's what it smells like, and I love that. It reminds me of like shopping at Contempo Casuals and Anchor Blue and Claire's, then you'd hit up Gottschalk's and JCPenney's, and you'd do lunch at the food court, you know? It totally takes me back. And that's the wonderful thing about fragrances. It has this amazing transformative power. It's our sense that's most tied to memory, so it can really just transport you in this amazing way. And so I've just been feeling this totally 90s vibe. I also want to let you guys know that Scentbird now has the option to do a standalone. So instead of having the subscription service where it's like, I think $14.95 a month, you now have the option to do a standalone where it's $16.95 plus $3 shipping, but then you can just buy whichever fragrance you want. You don't have to do it with a subscription. You can just buy one and be out. Or if you want to get an extra one or something like that. So, it smells so good. I'm just thinking that I look younger with this makeup on, and I also look much paler because I don't have all those, you know, chiseled in features where it's darker or anything on my face. And, you know, I'm kind of okay with that. I'm not saying I'm giving up contouring. You guys know I'll be back to it tomorrow, but it's fun to experiment and kind of revisit some of those looks from the past, even the recent past. So hopefully you guys are excited about this 90s video, and let's go ahead and get started. First things first, do not mind my little poof hairdo. This is not actually a hairdo. This is just how I sort of set my hair so that when I take it down it'll have a lot of volume, so that like after it blow dries it's not just like laying there and hanging. It sort of dries in this upward position so that I have volume later. Anyway, moving on. I'll start with my moisturizer. This is the Ultra Repair Pure Mineral Sunscreen from First Aid Beauty. This product has mineral sunscreen, or sometimes it's called physical sunscreen, and it has both titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. And I prefer that for just general sun protection, but that will cause like camera flashback. For me, it's about that protection factor. But obviously you want to use what works for you. I just personally prefer the physical block of mineral sunscreens. Let this soak in for just a couple of minutes. Let like the redness in my skin start to calm down. That's when I kind of know that it's all kind of sucked in. And then I'll be ready to put out a little bit of primer on places like this whole area where I have larger pores and I kind of want to mask them. So once that redness has subsided a bit and everything just feels nice and sunk in, I'm going to go ahead and take this Makeup Forever primer. This is totally an unnecessary step because this is basically a low-key look. So if you don't feel like applying a primer or anything like that, don't do it. I'm just taking a tiny bit of this and applying it to places like my nose. I have some larger pores in this area. And I find with this one it's best to sort of initially apply it on, but it starts to get like really, really like tacky, and then you just want to sort of pat it from that point. It almost has like a cooling feeling on the skin. It's great for using in small areas, but I wouldn't use this all over the face. So for concealer today, I'm going to mix two. One of these is technically a color corrector from Urban Decay. The other one is the regular concealer in the shade Light. I used to mix light and fair together to get my shade, but this one has a slightly more pink tone, so it gives me a better tone. As you can see, I'm very pink skinned. I do have some yellow discoloration around my eyes, and the pink actually helps balance that out really well. So, you know, I have both the color match that I need by mixing a lighter color with the deeper concealer, but I also get the color correction factor out of the pink. So I'm going to take a little bit of the pink and just put it in those places where I have that sallow skin tone. And then I put a little bit more of it on the back of my hand, which I'll mix in with the regular concealer color, which ultimately looks a little bit more peachy compared to what the pink concealer looks like at this point. So then I'm going to take, this is a Tarte concealer brush, which I really, really love. I'm going to dip the smaller end of it into my concealer mixture and take that places where I need concealing. So like for instance, under the eye. To apply it on with the smaller end and then take the larger to blend it out, and also blend out this concealer from earlier. And you can see I get a really good color match with that. Now you can see that this redness down here is so much more pronounced because we've canceled out some of the other discoloration. So I'm just going to bop, bop, bop a little bit more of that concealer, buff it out. I'm just going to actually take just a little bit. This concealer is almost completely dried up. If I'd used a palette, it would have stayed wet longer, but when you put product on like the back of your hand, it starts to actually soak in to your hand. I'm just taking, it's almost like a dry bit of the concealer. It's almost dry at this point, but it adds just a little bit of color right there. And yes, there's some redness in my, you know, in other parts of my face, but that's what the powder is for. I'm going to be using the MAC Mineralize Skinfinish Natural in Light. I love this stuff. This is my ride or die powder forever. And to apply that, I'm going to be using my ColorMe Pro, which I adore. So this is a vibrating like applicator tool. It's really cool. You can see it applies plenty of product. You can kind of sweep it on and then glide it over. Take a little more. And it's going to give me that beautiful like 90s velvet finish. The sunscreen moisturizer that I put down earlier is acting as a glue for this, so it's really just going to hold that on. This powder is what I would describe as like a medium to full coverage. It's not, I would even just really call it a medium coverage versus calling it full. And I like that because it just makes me look like I've got great skin versus looking like I have great foundation on. Whenever I wear this, you know, throughout the day, it starts to get a little glowier. And the compliment I always get is, oh my god, your skin is beautiful. And I'm like, well, this awesome powder that I've been using for like a million years actually, but thanks. Okay, so for my eyebrows today, I'm going to be using the Milani Brow Tint Pen in Natural Taupe. And what I'm going to do, this is so not authentic to the 90s, because in the 90s, I do feel like at some point full brows were in, but definitely when I was wearing makeup, that really skinny brow look was in. Have you ever seen that meme that's like, you know, you could have had the full brows, but we had tweezers in 8th grade? Yeah. So I fake it by filling them in with a tint like this. This is the Milani Brow Tint in Natural Taupe. This has a slightly reddish tint, so it really melds with my current hair color really well. It sort of rides the line in between my natural brow color, which is this like ashy, you know, dark blonde, light brown kind of color, and then my hair that I dye my hair obviously like a burgundy color. So this kind of sort of communicates between those two colors. It gives me a brow color that really works for me. So I fill in the general shape, and I also fill in a little bit within the brow shape. This is why I like using a tint pen versus using like a eyebrow pencil, because if I was to have to fill in that color with a pencil overall, that's when you get that Sharpie brow look. Whereas because this has a little bit of translucency to it, the skin color comes through just a little bit, light gets through a little bit, and it looks a little more natural. Once I have them filled in with that brow tint, I'll take a darker brow gel. This is the Urban Decay Brow Tamer in the shade Dark, which I think is the darkest color they have. And ordinarily, if like this was someone, if I was doing like makeup on someone who actually had dark hair, I'd really wiggle that brush in there and make sure I was depositing a lot of color. I'm just going to use a light tint. Just kind of go over, flick it in, deposit a little, and then move on. And then the other element of this is to then take a spoolie and go back through, and this just takes off a little bit of what you've just deposited. And you see it just makes it a little bit darker, and it makes the brow hairs just a little bit more defined. It's not a big, huge difference, but it's all about making those little subtle things that really help a look overall. So for my eyeshadow base today, I'm going to be using Urban Decay's Enigma, which is a really fantastic primer that has a little bit more pigmentation to it than the original primer potion. So it's going to actually cancel out all this veininess on my eyelids, which is great. And I'm going to use my concealer brush to blend that out. It almost looks like I'm putting on concealer on my eyelid, am I right? If you have darker skin than me, it's going to help brighten up eyeshadow because it'll give you that lighter base. So for the eyeshadow today, I am going to be going for something really light. I'm going to use my Too Faced Natural Matte palette, which is one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes. And I'm going to first pick up this color, which is called Nudie, on a Smith 256 brush. Just kind of pack that on the brush. And I'm going to sweep that all over the mobile lid, which means the part that moves. Just sweep that all over, dragging it up slightly into the crease, but keeping it very soft. If you need to, you can come back with a blending brush and just soften up that edge. Taking my Smith 256, I'm going to dip that into Nudie, great matte eyeshadow. And this one's a really wonderful neutral because it's somewhere between warm and cool. I kind of can't decide which side of the spectrum it's on. So it's great for doing a very neutral, naked kind of eye. Pack that on all over the lower lid. I have a little bit more of a line here that I'd like. So I'm just going to take a blending brush and just blend it out. No extra product or anything, you're just softening that edge. And really this is such a nude color, but you still want to be mindful of where you're placing things. I'm next going to take Cashmere Bunny, which if you can see is almost the same kind of color, but it's ever so slightly cooler and ever so slightly darker. And I'm just going to put this into my crease. This is going to create the illusion that I have a little bit more of a receded crease than what I do have. It's going to sort of take away some of my hooded eyelid. And just slowly fade that up. You can even bring back your other brush and blend that out because it has that softer color on it. For highlight today, I'm going to use Heaven with a Smith 122 brush. We're just going to take that all over the underbrow. Instead of black eyeliner or brown eyeliner, either one of those would have been really authentically 90s, but in the 90s I was all about green. I'm going to be using my modern day equivalent of that, my Stila Stay All Day Waterproof Liquid Eyeliner in the shade Olive. This is one of my all-time favorites. It's warm enough that it really will enhance my blue eye color, but it's also a really great green eyeliner if you have green eyes or brown eyes or any eye color that you want to have an alternative to brown. It's a color, but it's muted. You know what I mean? So I'm going to just sketch that along my lash line. It's almost like stamping it on. And just ever so slightly heavier in the outer, very, very outer corner. Let me go ahead and give my eyelashes a squeeze with my eyelash torture device. I really like this one that I got from Walgreens. I think I might prefer it to my Tweezerman one, which is pretty impressive considering that this was like $4.99. Gives me a really great curl. I feel like it lasts longer. For mascara today, I'm going to use the Tarte Tarteist eyeliner, or mascara. Is this eyeliner? No. Great amount of volume and definition. Looks pretty soft now. If this was like highly authentic to me getting ready to like wear my makeup for middle school, I'm telling you guys right now this mascara would be blue, because I bought this crazy electric blue mascara from Claire's, and this is back before I knew that like you needed to throw your mascara out like every 3 months, and I think I wore it for about 3 years. So now for the lower lash line, I'm going to apply a different green liner. This is from Makeup Forever. This is their new aqua liners. So I'm going to go ahead and smudge this in my lower lash line. If you want, you could even take a Q-tip and soften that a little bit more. I'll kind of bring that up and make sure that the corners meet. And take my hair down before I do my blush and stuff. In fact, let's zoom out a bit. Okay, so for blush in the 90s, I wore a very like orangey toned bronzery blush called Women of Earth or something like that. It was from Avon, I can't remember. So in lieu of that, I'm going to use this beached bronzer from Urban Decay. Do that with a Wayne Goss 14 brush to give me a little bit of a lighter application of this, so I can build it up. Excellent. And then finally for lipstick, I feel like the most iconically 90s part about this whole look is the lipstick. I'm going to be using a Bobbi brown lipstick because she really, I feel like that makeup line and her as a makeup artist really put brown lipstick on the map in the 90s. Of course, Kevyn Aucoin definitely played a huge role in that as well, but Bobbi Brown was sort of the mastermind of that naked makeup face, or neutral makeup face. So I'm going to be using a modern Bobbi Brown lipstick in the shade Soft Berry. I'm just going to grab a lip brush just to smooth out the edges. And this color just makes my eyes like super intense. It helps also enhance the green of the eyeliner because it has a little bit of plum in it. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this authentic version of a 90s look. I went ahead and popped in my nose ring. I feel like no 90s look is complete without that. I actually wish I had like an actual ring, but I haven't worn a ring in my nose probably since the 90s when I first got it pierced. I just find studs a little more comfortable, although I am interested in actually getting a ring. So if any of you guys can actually suggest them, because I find a lot of times when I would wear a nose ring, they would get bent, and or they'd just be really big, and I want one that's really, really like, you know, as fine as like an earring ring. I don't want like a big piece because that would be like re-piercing. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Remember to be vintage or tacky. Just be your own kind of beautiful. See you, bye.